want to hear me singing out of tune anymore. Turn them off.
I wonder if I brought it. You told me that.
So, and since this is interactive, I'll be passing the mic around, so if you have a question, just raise your hand, don't start talking. I'll bring the mic to you, so you don't have to repeat it.
Yeah, and we will, of course, as we've done in the past, pause for discussion in various places, so we'll need to remember that. Okay, folks.
You want all the lights out?
Well, we usually, for safety, keep those on at the end, although I have to say, I often think, no, keep them out. I mean, last night when I was showing the film, I was thinking I should have turned those out too, because it's very hard to. Yeah, but I think, for safety's sake, couldn't do it. Okay, eat, drink, man, woman, and in Chinese, and as I will talk about more in a little bit, this is a quote from the Li Ji, probably terribly mispronounced, the Book of Rites, which is a Confucian classic going back a couple of thousand years. So, and it's also interesting to me that when the title is represented in Chinese in the film, it has the first two characters in modern Chinese and the second two, man, woman, in an archaic form. How do I know that? Because when I was in high school, I wanted to study Chinese. And this was made by An Li in Taiwan in 1994. This is our first male chef protagonist. So one of the things we're going to think about are the gender differences. We'll talk about a man in the kitchen, a father and three daughters, Sunday dinner and family conflict, and various other things. Okay, since there were a lot of characters, and since some of us may not be adept at recognizing Asian faces, we'll go over them quickly. In some ways, you could say the protagonist is Chef Chu, who is a widower, semi-retired after losing a professional chef in a big restaurant, semi-retired after losing his sense of taste. The eldest daughter, Jia Jian, is a chemistry teacher and a Christian. Which one of these three women is Jia Jian? Anybody want to take a guess?
On the left and one on the right. On the right.
I think it's the one on the right. Jia Qian, the second daughter, is an executive at an airline company. She wanted to become a head chef like her father, but he claimed that it was not appropriate for a woman to be a head chef.
Oh my.
Zhang Ning is the middle one. She's the youngest. She's in college and she works part-time, what a come down, at a fast food restaurant.
Yes.
Other important characters: Old Wen, affectionately known as Uncle Wen, Chef Chu's longtime friend and fellow chef. He was his right-hand assistant. Jin Rong, friend of the daughters, and she is getting divorced, and she's the mother of little girl Shan Shan. How old would you say Shan Shan was?
6.
5 or 6, something like that. She's going to school.
Something around.
And then there's Madame Liang, Jin Rong's mother, and their various boyfriends. So, got that straight, it'll be on the final. Okay, this film was directed by An Li, who was born in 1954, a spring chicken, younger than I am, so. It was his third film, and it was the final film of his series, which is informally known as the Father Knows Best series. And it explored these films all explored the relationships between, and conflicts between tradition and modernity, Eastern and Western life. The two preceding films were Pushing Hands, made in 1991. Anybody know what Pushing Hands referred to in? That's it, Tai Chi, it's a Tai Chi exercise. And The Wedding Banquet, how many of you have seen The Wedding Banquet? No? I'm astonished, yes, oh, okay. Which came out in 1993. Pushing Hands and The Wedding Banquet were both filmed mostly in the United States. And they were about Chinese American life here, mainly. But all three of these films, Pushing Hands, Wedding Banquet, and Eat, Drink, Man, Women, were originally intended for the Taiwanese audience, not for an international audience. The three films show the Confucian family, we can think about what that means, at risk, and all three of them star the Taiwanese actor Si Hung Lung, the man who plays Chef Chu. In fact, apparently he had retired, but he was so interested by these scripts that he jumped on the ship. An Lee grew up in Taiwan. He was the son, as so many people there are, of Chinese refugees from the Communist Revolution. The indigenous Taiwanese ethnic groups are really only a small percentage of the population now. He later attended the University of Illinois, where he got, I think, his bachelor's degree, in performing arts of some sort, and the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU, where he was in a class with Spike Lee, two different Lees. And he helped Spike make his sort of senior thesis film.
Okay.
Lee's films are known for their emotional charge and exploration of repressed hidden emotions, and he certainly made Brokeback Mountain. He made Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He also made The Hulk, the Marvel one, and other things. Many of which were very successful, and many of which were not. Some of which. Okay, comparison, and now we'll need the microphones. I thought that there's no point comparing Chef Chu to say, well, anyway, I think Babette is the best comparison. So what do you think? In what ways do Babette and Chef Chu compare? Here, Neville? Wait a second, let's get this.
They're both master chefs
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning.
Not at the beginning of the film, though. Earlier in their lives. Anything else? Anything else that is similar or different that you want to comment on, Tony?
They're both from big cities, but I think he's more aware of the need for change from time. I don't think Babette is. I think she's staying in would like to go back to her time.
Well, and the film was in the 19th century, shot and set in the 19th century.
Yeah.
So she came from a big city, but and she probably would like to be in that big city, but she's reconciled to living in a small town. And Chef Chu seems to have grown up in Taipei and lived there all his life, as far as we know. Anything else?
I didn't see Babette, but they're both cooking for large families with all that involves.
Well, Babette actually mainly cooks for the two sisters, and then for their charity cases, but the feast at the end is for the whole church group. Anybody else? Oh, come on, folks.
You see all sorts of techniques.
Okay, back here.
Yes, I'm mute the microphone.
Yeah, and then one in front, Martha wants to say something after.
It's extremely complex cooking
Yes.
and recipes that they know intuitively.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, but pass that
That's
up to-
essentially what I was
Oh,
going to
that's the
say.
same you were going to say. Okay, fine. Anybody else?
They work alone.
Wait.
They work alone.
Well, they do much of the time, but did Chef Chu always work alone? Well, probably Babette didn't either. We don't see that, though.
They're both repressed and they put their emotions into their cooking.
Very good.
What about crowds? In Taipei, it seems that there's enormous numbers
We're
of
going to
people.
talk about that.
And Babette, no.
Yeah, you're right. We're going to talk about that. Okay, so here are some of the things I came up with. They're both widowed. They've lost their marriage partners, and Babette's was executed. Her husband and son were executed. Chef Chu has not lost his children, but his wife died about 16 years before the time of the film. Neither of them are working as a professional chef. They keep house. They do home cooking, although I think that Chef Chu, perhaps you can say, may still not know how to do home cooking. He does restaurant cooking for the home.
Yes.
Babette knows how to adjust. Babette has lost her status as a famed chef and her exceptional role in the masculine world. And we're going to talk about these other questions about Chef Chu. Has Chef Chu been feminized? He's become a substitute mother. He's doing the laundry. He's waking his daughters up. And the other thing is Babette's feast is a one-time event in which the food is the vehicle, as they say, for transcendence, for love and sensuality and spirit, all to come together in a transformative experience. Chef Chu doesn't cook like that. His weekly family dinners are called the Sunday torture rituals by his daughters, and we'll talk about why. Okay, back to the Confucian classics. So the title, so does anybody remember, do you remember when in the film somebody says eat, drink, man, woman, and what the context was?
Guys are walking.
So give her a mic. Tony.
You're up as what's his name in the restaurant? When? She'll answer if you did it better. Okay, your turn.
Chu and Wen are walking together. Chu has just come to the restaurant to kind of rescue a menu, and he and Wen are walking through the kitchen, and that's, I believe, when that comes
Not
up.
quite. Not quite. It is in the restaurant, but it's actually after the feast. Do you remember? Anybody remember that really quite intimate conversation between old Wen and Chu? What does old Wen say to him? And then later, I believe it's actually Chu who says, eat, drink, man, woman, as they're walking out, both of them drunk.
Right.
Do you remember any of that conversation?
I think, all I remember is they're walking.
Okay, so the conversation that they have after Chu has saved the restaurant, it's clear that Wen is not only a close colleague but a family friend. He talks about the daughters, talks about his worry about the daughters, about Chu's worry about the daughters, and how he's got to get his oldest married off where she'll stick with them together, although she now has the ideal boyfriend, Jesus Christ. And then he says, not really quite baldly, but he means to say, you want sex and you haven't got it.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, you got that, Neville? Yeah, he says, yeah. Anybody else notice that? That's while they're sitting and talking. And then as they're walking out, Chu says, eat, drink, man, woman, is that all there is to life? Food and sex. So the title is a quote from the Book of Rites, which was composed, nobody's really sure, but at least by 300 BCE. I should have written BCE, my goodness, bad Jew. One of the Confucian classics. referring to the basic human desires and accepting them as natural. The beginning of the quote reads as follows: "The things which men greatly desire are comprehended in food and drink and sexual pleasure." Li, the book is called the Li Ji, literally means rites, but it can also be used to refer to ceremonial or rules of conduct. The term has come to generally be associated with good form, decorum, or politeness. This is all from Wikipedia. Confucius felt that Li should emphasize the spirit of piety and respect for others through rules of conduct and ceremonies. As outlined in the Book of Rites, and I think this is interesting for its use in the film, Li is meant to restore the significance of traditional forms by looking at the simplicity of the past. And if you remember, one of the things that's said about the Fathers Knows Best trilogy is that it is looking at the disintegration, the problems of the Confucian family in the present day. And indeed, there's the traffic. I'm sorry it's so blurry, but that's all I could get. Taipei in the 1990s was thriving economically. Its population was expanding to over 2 million people. It's more than that now. It was, in 1990, there were mass we don't see this in the film, but there were mass democracy rallies which led to an island-wide transition from multi-party to multi-party democracy. And in fact, I read elsewhere that the Presbyterian Church there was very active in supporting this. And so what about these opening and recurring scenes of traffic? Anybody got any thoughts about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That life is always on the move,
Mhm.
and Chu and his family are sort of stuck
Mhm.
in the past and in tradition
Mhm.
and unable to get out of that. But life goes on, boom, 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 which eventually
Yeah.
happens at the end of the film.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I was thinking it's sort of the way they occurred during the film, that it was sort of a time passes now, we're going to jump to another area of interest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are not so untouched by the modern, but it is, anyway, yes, back here.
I thought it was interesting that all of the boyfriends, two of them are always going by on motorcycles.
Yes.
So it kind of fit with that. And then the third possible that ended up not being a boyfriend was also on the move, and travel executive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Where was that? Go ahead, yeah.
It's just that there's somebody directing
Speak
traffic.
directly into it.
The directing traffic, like there was only one path. Everybody's sort of hurting, but they're going their own separate ways. You don't know what path these girls or their father will end up in.
Very good, very nice. And it's interesting too, I can't remember if this is in the interview with Ang Lee I'm going to play in a little while, but he mentions the woman traffic cop also as a sign of change. Okay. Christianity in Taiwan, not being able ever to really read Chinese, having been discouraged from it when I was in high school, I could not find out a lot about Christianity in Taiwan. In 2005, Christians were only about 4% of the population of Taiwan. Christians on the island included approximately 600,000 Protestants and 300,000 Catholics, and it appears that they're a somewhat larger percentage nowadays, like about 6%. This is the Taiwei Baptist Theological Seminary in Taipei. I could not figure out what group was portrayed because of the full-body baptism that's portrayed at the end. Well, I thought it might be Baptist, that's why I pictured the Baptist, or it might be one of the evangelical churches, although many of them seem to have missions to the indigenous population. Anyway, but why is it important that one of the daughters is a Christian? The oldest daughter has become a Christian. And remember also in that conversation with Uncle Wen, Chef Chu says, don't make fun of her religion. So anybody, what's the role of Christianity in this film?
It's
Betty Ann. No, she's getting it.
Is it real turning one's back on every tradition there is? So if we're talking about modernity, that maybe modernity and Christianity are indeed what they are struggling to figure out. Where does it belong and where do I belong?
Anybody else?
With the death of her mother, that's where she found some stability.
Yes, I think that's true. But I think that the fact that she's chosen something which is so far from the Confucian family is kind of interesting. Okay, now we get to the food. What are the meanings of food in this film? I'm going to show you a clip. It's somebody has compiled clips of all the different food scenes. It's kind of amateurish, but watch out for home cooking. I mean, the chef Chu cooking at home, cooking in the restaurant, the fast food, Jia Chen cooking for her boyfriend or her erstwhile boyfriend, and Chef Chu bringing, or Grandpa Chu in this case, bringing food for Shan Shan. Anyway, so just look out and see. Hey, come on, folks. There's no dialogue in this.
Chava, move the cursor down.
谢谢你，让我们一家和肉团聚在一起。祷告感谢奉献。
这玩意儿真能做吃的。
在10楼。
最爱喝的苦瓜排骨粥。
煮安豆腐，就弹出名，尝尝看。这是豆瓣鱼。
你好。
That's the lunchbox from Shan Shan's mother. Physical.
我小心了。
Think about why he's making those mistakes in those last few scenes. Okay. Okay. Some food moments. So we can talk about any of these, but cooking at the restaurant, past and present. Anybody have anything to say about that?
I just love how physical it was.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anybody else want to say anything about the restaurant scenes? Here, Tony, back here, or is that somebody else?
Well, it's an enormous restaurant and an enormous kitchen with everything, like an army going to work.
You can see where he came from.
Yes, that's
What, you know, when he's left, which you can't do anymore, but the difference between the setting into which he worked before, which to me was overwhelming, but for him he was comfortable in that setting, to being at home and going through those rituals, and we love watching him, but I'm not sure it's enough for him.
Yeah.
The standard of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the very important persons banquet.
Generals, yeah.
When they were in trouble,
Yeah.
they were in real trouble.
Right. You can see the maitre d' sweating in panic because they bought fake shark fins. Oh, wait, Leslie?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I said perfection before because when he has this beautifully carved
Can't
melon,
hear.
when he has the beautifully carved melon and he makes a certain slice, whoosh, it's gone.
Well,
Hours of effort gone.
I guess another question is, why does he make mistakes as he's cooking for the final banquet, the final Sunday torture ritual?
I think that quest for perfection is a double-edged sword. That if you achieve it or close to it, it's ecstasy, it's joy, it's almost sexual pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And if you screw it up, it's disaster.
Yes. But what's going to happen at that final banquet? I think he's very nervous, and the way it shows him, because he's going to announce that he's going to marry Jinrang,
Right.
and he knows that this is going to upset a heck of a lot of people at the table. And he doesn't, and he's, instead of being able to prepare everything, this is what you see him wonderfully doing it before without any problems, and this time, you know, they can't catch the chickens, and he upsets the winter melon sculpture, and he you know, has to tip a frying pan out onto the floor, and all that stuff. He's really anxious because of the revelation to come.
What was that thing that he hit with the hammer and then undid?
So if you saw it before, if you saw it in the film, it actually looks like a clay sculpture of a chicken. And inside is obviously some kind of form of chicken that was roasted inside that clay sculpture.
It was weird, it seemed to be all wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
Well, I think it probably wasn't plastic, but something else. Could be
Seaweed.
Could be something. Who knows what it was? So, I mean, and what about the connection of food and sex? Think about maybe Jia Chen and her boyfriend when she's cooking for him. Or was there somebody? Go ahead.
I thought it was interesting that in most of the situations where they were eating, it was sort of a very broadly communal, whether it was a restaurant or in the family, lots of people together. And really that scene of her with her boyfriend was really the only kind of intimate food thing. So I was thinking about just what the sexual implications were of these like big family meals.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that in those family meals, there's always somebody who's ready to make an announcement.
That's it.
And there's something there that I think is important.
Yes, I think it is very important, and one reason these are the torture rituals is the place where, it seems to me anyway, where those revelations either keep getting suppressed or eventually come out. There is one other intimate food scene, and that is when the youngest, Jianying, is stealing her friend's boyfriend, and they go out to a little restaurant and they talk about how you have to feel comfortable. She says love is when you feel comfortable talking to someone, and that is, and and that leads to their relationship. So the food is probably not spectacular, but it's still an intimate moment.
I want to go back to Xiaxian cooking for her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
It really reveals something about the family dynamics.
Yes.
That she wanted to be a chef, not a corporate executive, but her father kept her out of the kitchen, and shows how controlling he was of his daughters and how she had this coveted position that apparently she didn't want.
Well, so here's an interesting thing. She talks about the difference between now, when he won't let her in the kitchen, and when she was a little girl, when she used to hang out after school with him at the restaurant. And what does she say about him there?
It was so much fun.
It was so much fun, presumably before his wife died.
Yeah.
So that at that point, he could have fun with her, he could make her little bracelets out of bread. Uncle Wen was teaching her how to cook, and that clearly was under Chef Chu's nose because they worked together. And Uncle Wen clearly thought she was very talented, said you could have been the greatest chef. On the other hand, he says when he's in the hospital, he says to Jia Chen, you should thank your father for making you go to college. Being a chef is very hard work. And she's clearly the brightest of the three daughters. Okay, Jianying cooking fries at Wendy's is just a come down. You remember how the neighbors keep singing karaoke and it's very annoying? So at one point, one of the daughters says, I think it's probably Jia Chen, they sing karaoke, we eat to communicate. And I guess we've sort of talked about the Sunday afternoon torture ritual, partly because it's not a family dinner, is it? Or it seems not to me. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't know what a Chinese family would eat for family Sunday dinner. Interesting that it's Sunday dinner also. They've adopted the Western calendar. But it looks like these gorgeous restaurant banquets, and there's far more food than anybody can eat. Maybe they just eat the leftovers all week. Okay, all right, let me play the interview with Ang Lee. This is about 10 minutes.
Taking a lot of pressure being the first son of my father's in Taiwan. He ran away from communists. He was the only survivor that came to Taiwan because of the Civil War. My grandparents were executed, so I was carrying the family name and the duty. And I think I was a born entertainer. I'm this funny guy who wanted to do drama and theater, and in our society it was looked upon very low.
是那种一过必一过跟爱这么样就这么样，谁理你呀？真不值得，我告诉你。
He was a high school principal of the best high school, one of the best high schools in Taiwan. I felt this tremendous guilt of flunk the college examination and do what I wanted to do, which is making movies. And took a long, I never made a penny before I was 37. Up to my second film, I never make any money. my wife was working, and I was cooking at home and writing script and bringing up kids. So I was ashamed for a long time, a lot of pressure in me.
Eating Man Woman really takes place as the third of our so-called Father Knows Best trilogy, where you're really seeing the kind of, the Confucian fatherly role model slowly turn into something else, and something a little bit more, as we would say, modern.
It's a father, a traditional Chinese father. It's just awkward. There's no communication with the daughter.
早爸
Just the sex differences will make all the awkwardness. So they have to communicate sort of in a superficial way and caring underneath, but there's hardly any fluent communication due to lack of mother.
你还好吧？
我很好。你问这干嘛？
没有，我看你。
我有什么不对啊？
没有。
The father is very isolated. He is like my father or a lot of people in that age that came from China due to
What's
the
he
Civil
looking at
War.
there?
Part of what the film both celebrates and also interrogates is this sense of Dad himself having these desires, having his own agenda, which was the last thing anybody could have thought of.
请你成全我，我先干为敬。
Love?
The daughters had to find their own way towards figuring out their own roles in the family and realizing that they had to connect to themselves and to each other and their father in ways that were truer to what they needed and what they were. It's a space of transition. It's a space where they don't quite know what their role is.
Due to love and traditional manners, they have to obey, they have to care, but they're not really level with each other. I think that's the biggest problem in that family. So the food and the banquet in the movie has become a ritual.
亲亲亲。
After the wedding banquet, I was approached by many Hollywood characters, and I really didn't want to deal with that. I feel desperate need to establish myself as a Chinese filmmaker. I need to go back home. It was actually the first movie, and so far the only movie I made in my hometown, Taiwan. Visually, I would like to provide hints of a society such as Taipei in transition. I feel like a visitor and homecoming at the same time. So any cue like that hits me, the top view of a lot of motorcycles. A woman conduct traffic transit will interest me, or high school. That's somewhat different from when I was in high school, but still familiar. For the first three movies, me and my cameraman John Lin, we didn't really have specific plans. The first two movies were kind of survivals, natural light. For Eating Man Woman is the first time we actually have the luxury to do something more refined, cinematography. There's a scene of Mr. Chu come to rescue that was in the script. Whereas any filmmaker, you look at that scene and say, I'm gonna find the most impressive kitchen in Taipei. Actually, I put 3 kitchens together in that one sequence. I thought this is naturally called for Steadicam, walk by. I wanted Mr. Chu to go in because it's a rescue mission, so I want to treat him like a surgeon, a doctor, medical surgeon, but I will go to the heart of the problem, which is a melted shark shark fin soup.
这玩意儿只能做翅根，脆盖就变成了刺猬。盖龙凤呈祥啊，鲍鱼那个赔多少钱呢？到这个时候赔钱也得做，先把场面稳下来，回头我再跟上面解释。
Food in Chinese culture is just an unbelievably rich vein for study, celebration, dissection, and mystery. When you go out to dinner at a Western restaurant, everybody has a menu and they all look over and say, so what do you get? In China, of course, it's quite different. It's much more focused as a social event. And food is really something that's shared as opposed to typically in the West. You know, this is mine and that's yours, and maybe you can, okay, you want to bite.
Before I started making my first movie, before I started my career, there was 6 years that I didn't have any job. My wife worked, and I was a house husband. I was doing all the cooking. So over the years, I think I developed this idea that someday I would just want to make a movie that make the audience saliva just keep drooling out. I think cooking had become one of my substitute of my affection, especially towards my family member, particularly my children and my wife. Most of the film they talk about sex, that get you instinctive reactions, but not a lot of movies that use food. It's like watching sex scene, you get aroused. So why not a lot of people using food? We overuse sex in the movies and not enough food. With food and sex, one is to sustain life, the other to multiply life.
菜，鸭性属寒，用洋葱来爆炒，正好可以平衡过来。食补药膳里讲求就是能沁胃三方面的平衡。
这我懂，就像阴阳需要调和一样。
In order to get the audience saliva going for the food that's showing on the movie, you have to show the making the food. The process is really stimulating for the taste bud. It is very difficult, I think, shooting food, because just technically to keep 6 to 10 or 12 courses a meal, it will take you maybe up to an hour, 45 minutes preparation. So everything on table, steaming at the same time. And then when the actors get really worked out, they screw up one line, they really want to kill them, like 6 to 9 takes. It drives you crazy. And if you see faces, and actually they do some cooking, they're actually doing it. Like blow up a duck, put flour over fish, that's an easy thing. Or just simple chop. When you see close up, that's stun hands, and it's not just one. We have 5 general chefs, top of the line chefs that work with us.
So actually, most of this stuff is done by chefs.
Make the wrappers, like pancake, that's a special skill. Or wrapping dumpling that's size like this. That's tedious, but the best of everything, we're just putting one person. And then the trick is that nobody in the movie is actually eating them. They look over the food, they talk about the food or about something, but nobody touched the food. Then you're really gonna work the audience out.
Everyone always tells young writers, write about what you know. So define yourself as an American.
All right. Here. So before we go on to this question, which is kind of interesting to me as a part of the film, what do you think about the interview? I don't want it to be playing. Thoughts about the interview?
It just demonstrates on how autobiographical the film is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing to know, which I read in the back information, and maybe with a different, there's a longer cut of this interview someplace else, when Ang Lee went to the University of Illinois, he met his future wife there. She was a microbiologist. She was studying microbiology. And she worked as a microbiologist. She's Chinese also. Worked as a microbiologist the whole time that he was trying to scrape together money to make films, and he was a house husband. he did the cooking, he took the kids to school, he did all those things, which, you know, I guess it caused him to think about what does it mean for a man to do those things and not to know his job. Anybody else?
I think I misinterpreted things, but I'll explain where it came from. I had a father who was a social worker, and I think he felt in the 1940s that it really wasn't the proper job for a man. That was fairly unusual to be a social worker, except he was head of a lot of things, but nevertheless. And so I interpreted some parts of this movie as his saying, I'm in the old world, but you're going to be in the new world. And obviously you're all telling me that's not true, but, and that, of course, they're girls besides. But they should go out and find their own way, and that even the one daughter shouldn't be a chef who really had an interest in a skill. And so I didn't know if he was, I don't see anything, so I think I'm just interpreting my own experience into that. But seeing that, is he ambivalent about having being a chef? I don't think so. But for some reason, I wanted to fit that square into a round hole.
Yeah, well, anyway, other people?
I think at one point he actually said, Ang Lee said he was ashamed.
About himself.
About himself.
Not working.
Or, yeah. And where was I going with this? Chu, I think he does feel a little emasculated because he, and I think the loss of taste is a physical a manifestation of that.
Yeah.
Impotence.
Yeah. Anybody else? Over here.
I'm just wondering who's supporting the family. If he's not working, are the girls? And he's trying to get them married off. Who's going to support him when the girls go?
Well, it's a good question. They each have full-time jobs. Well, no, the youngest has a part-time job. But she's in college, so she has a part-time job at Wendy's. But the eldest is a full-time high school teacher, and the middle girl is apparently very well-paid and very excellent airline executive. But when they leave, who's going to support them? I don't know. Maybe he has a pension. Yeah. Good question.
Well, he's going to remarry, right?
He is, but, well, and she has a job. But she's about to have a baby, so who knows exactly what's going to happen. Okay, let's just go on. So, has Mr. Chu been unmanned? And I think the consensus here is, yes, he has been to a degree. He lost his wife 16 years before the time of the film. He keeps doing what you could call restaurant cooking at home. So he's tried to fit into the home cooking, but he doesn't know how to do home cooking. And then there's the whole, as was it Leslie who said, losing the sense of taste is sort of like losing his potency. And it's clear by the fact that he consults that recipe book with herbal remedies, and it says for restoring potency, that he is having problems. There's a whole scene where he's pulling their bras out of the washing machine and then unsuccessfully distributing them to the girls. At first you see him hanging up what looks like his own laundry. Why is he doing their laundry? They're grown-ups, And then I think the whole relationship with Shan Shan is more complicated. You could see it as mothering, but you could also see it as grandfathering. Yeah. And also wooing, that's right, and wooing her mother.
Yeah.
And her mother is, a friend mostly of the oldest daughter, but all of them. And how does he restore his virility? Well, he has the herbal recipe, and And I love this scene. Anybody here know the phrase "going to the Schwitz"? Yeah. So there he was going to the Schwitz. Schwitz means sweat in Yiddish. He goes to the steam bath, and he gets a massage. He's getting in shape. He's getting healed. He's getting physically healed. Now, do you think the daughters mature on their own, or is it a kind of joint process between father and daughters, this transition in the family? Jim?
I think it's parallel. It seems to me that he is stuck with the death of his wife. And the only way he can handle that is through relying on his cooking. That he doesn't, without his wife, he has no sense of how to be a parent to the girls. So he's stuck, and I think he's saved from that through the little girl, who in a sense is the middle daughter revisited. And it was no surprise to me that he married the young woman, because that was probably the age when he lost his wife.
Yeah, that's very very good. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, and the youngest of his daughters was 4 when she died, when the wife died.
Yeah.
Did anyone notice the picture of the wife on the wall?
Yes.
And did anyone notice which of the daughters it looked like? The middle, and she was the one who posed for the photo, the actor.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was done consciously. That daughter, the middle daughter, took after her mother in appearance as well as perhaps. So the daughters eventually got themselves out of the house. What do people think about their prospects for successful marriages? Anybody think the youngest daughter and her husband are going to be? Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was really interesting that the fathers didn't have reaction to the daughter's various situations like you would expect a Western dad or a traditional dad to be furious if the daughter gets pregnant and she's not married. That whole side of things, that just kind of happened, and he didn't really.
Yeah.
So I wonder what that meant in terms of the cultural norm.
Also, it looked like she was trying to tell him while he was cooking dinner. She came up to him, he was doing something out in the yard with one of these smokers or steamers or something, and she stood there trying to say something. But she couldn't manage to do it, and therefore she had to say it at dinner to everybody. She wanted to tell him, but they just had no communication. Yeah, he doesn't react. Is that because he's so wrapped up in this thing with Jinram? Is it just because he's completely blocked emotionally? Hard to know. Or is it the case that, oh well, you know, now one's off my hands, she was a problem. I don't know. I mean, and how about the Christian and her volleyball coach husband? The high school teacher.
Converts her husband.
Middle.
How do you think they're going to do? Yes, Leslie. Just a second. Let me get Leslie up.
High school teacher was
I think the youngest one, the high school student, that marriage, that's not going to last. As far as
No,
I'm
the
concerned.
youngest one was actually a college student.
Yeah, the college student. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one
middle
who was
one is
working
the-
at Wendy's.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't think that one's going to last. I think that John Chen, knowing that John, the oldest one,
Yes.
the Christian teacher.
Yes.
I suspect that's going to last because he got himself baptized for her, and I have the feeling that there's a commitment there. And Jia Chen, I have no idea.
Yeah, right. Well, she's not getting married. How's she going to do in Amsterdam is the question. Open a restaurant. Yeah, it is interesting. They do seem to have more going for them, although at that scene where, what's her name, the oldest, is so upset because the students have been sending her these fake love letters. And she announces that she picks herself up. She's very brave to make that announcement and say, "Who's done this? Come see me," And they all are repentant, and then the coach goes in to kind of console her, but he doesn't really expect that passionate kiss. But he gets into it. And yes,
This doesn't address your question, but there's a scene between the two daughters where the one daughter says that she always thought she hated her.
Yeah.
So there's dysfunction among the three sisters
That's
that
right.
really isn't obvious at the beginning.
Right, because the oldest daughter, the Christian, the high school teacher, feels she must step in to be the mother.
Yeah.
And as I think her sister says, I didn't want a mother, I wanted a sister. So different things are being figured out.
What about the feigned love affair of the oldest?
Oh, so maybe you didn't get that, but that's a good question because it's confusing. So the oldest said that she was dumped by her boyfriend, Lee Kai, when 9 years before, when they were in college together studying chemistry. And she's never been able to love anybody again. Well, it turns out that she made this up. Because when Lee Kai shows up as an airline executive, and they have that scene where Jia Chen and the airline executive and Lee Kai start to make love or make out or something, she says, "Say my full name," because he thinks it will remind him of her sister, and then she gradually realizes that he says, "No, I didn't know your sister," and she doesn't think he's denying it, or he says he's not denying it, and he actually was going out with one of her friends. Was Jin Rong's older sister, the one who's in America and drove her mother crazy now. But so he remembered the oldest sister, but only as a friend of the girlfriend he had. And therefore, this whole thing, it is bizarre, was sort of made up as a defense as to why she couldn't date. And somehow she also undergoes transformation. She can face who she is once she doesn't feel like she has to be the mother and take care of her father for the rest of his life. And actually, so let's just talk about the final scene, which I love, where there's a family dinner, but who's cooking? Jia Chen. She's in the kitchen. He's already married to Jin Rong, and she's pregnant and has moved to the new place. The house has been sold, I don't know to whom. I thought maybe to Jia Chen, but I'm not sure that that's the case. It sort of looked like that.
She had the key when she came back.
Well, he had a key, and then he rang the bell instead. She's cooking in the kitchen. He no longer objects, but he says, "You put too much ginger in the soup." Well, what's the deal there?
He's got his taste back.
He's got his taste back. And the ginger soup, the soup is her mother's recipe. It's not his recipe. And she says, you were always too timid about ginger. This was mother's recipe. So she's reasserting a kind of feminine authority here. And she's looking over also, sort of sadly, I thought, all of his cooking supplies. That's earlier in the film. But that they have this moment that we see here where she's standing and handing him more soup, and he says daughter and she says father. So that's that. Next week, there is no film and no class because long before I signed up to teach this course, I signed up for a family farm camp with my grandson. So I will be leaving on Thursday morning. But the week after that, we're going to do Big Night with Stanley Tucci, which is mostly in English, although some of it's in Italian. And it's a great film. And a very masculine couple of chefs also. So I'll see you then.